From Vermont Public, this is The Frequency. I'm Aaliyah Papes, sitting in for Mitch Wortlieb today in the host chair. It's Wednesday, October 1st, and here are today's headlines. The federal government is shut down after Congress failed to reach an agreement on a short-term budget plan. Vermont officials say they don't expect the shutdown will have any immediate effect on state services, but they caution a prolonged disruption could hurt Vermont's economy. Budget Commissioner Adam Gresham told Vermont Public state agencies were instructed to draw down as much federal funding as possible in the short term. He says they did something similar during the last shutdown in 2018.
I don't think you will see anything different in state government services or delivery. But over time, you will start to see differences as programs that have additional funds from last year run out.
Gresham says it's difficult to evaluate how a shutdown will affect individual departments in Vermont until federal agencies announce their own contingency plans. The director of Vermont's Fair and Impartial Policing Office has been fired. This has led racial justice advocates to question the Scott administration's commitment to bias-free policing. Eitan Nasreddin-Longo has spent the last 5 years at the Department of Public Safety building relationships with communities of color. He says he was fired without explanation last Thursday.
I think it is striking that this happens to me without warning in the midst of the current national political scene that is very much anti-DEI.
State officials say the office's work will continue, but they did not respond to questions about whether Nasreddin-Longo will be replaced. Racial justice advocates say Nasreddin-Longo was a key bridge between law enforcement and marginalized communities. The chair of Vermont's Fair and Impartial Policing Committee calls his termination deeply disturbing. Rutland City Mayor Michael Dunges is urging city residents to approve a $3.9 million bond vote next Tuesday. The city plans to use the money to bury power lines and update aging water infrastructure underneath Center and Wales streets in downtown Rutland. Dunges says the upgrades are crucial for a new 7-story hotel and apartment complex a private developer wants to build.
This is an opportunity for the entire city to say, yes, we want to see growth and development and not have to pay for it when they say yes.
Dunges says that's because the 99-room hotel and restaurant is being built in a state-approved tax incremental finance district known as TIF. So rather than raise property taxes, the city can pay back the bond over 20 years using revenue the new development generates. The new building will also include 26 market-rate apartments. A South Burlington electric aircraft startup has taken its first step to go public. 7 Days reports Beta Technologies filed papers for an initial public offering on Monday with the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission. The startup plans to trade under the symbol Beta, according to the filing. Beta has raised more than $1 billion in private funding over recent years. This includes a recently announced $300 million investment by GE Aerospace. The company's primary underwriters are Morgan Stanley and Goldman Sachs. Beta will join a small number of publicly traded companies in Vermont, like Casella Waste Systems. The U.S. Forest Service is on guard against potential wildfires as our region continues to deal with drought and fire danger. The Forest Service has temporarily positioned a wildfire response helicopter at Lebanon Municipal Airport to shorten response times to potential wildfires in Vermont and New Hampshire. Nearby residents may notice intermittent flight activity. Operations will continue as long as there is an elevated fire risk. The U.S. Drought Monitor reports that all of Vermont continues experiencing drought conditions, with nearly a quarter of the state in extreme drought. All of Vermont has high fire risk. Coming up, the drought conditions are also causing many wells to run dry. Reporter Abigail Giles tells us climate change could cause more problems in the future. That's after this. With much of Vermont now facing severe drought, drinking water resources are strained, and that's led to hundreds of wells running dry. As Vermont Public's Abigail Giles reports, it's the sort of impact Vermont could see more of with climate change.
Faye Longo first noticed her spring-fed well was starting to run dry in late July.
My spring failed, and I had no water. And I have a child. I have an 11-year-old child, and I have dogs and cats and chickens.
Longo is a first-time homeowner in South Burlington. She called 17 well drillers before she found one that could come to her property in early September.
I had to take out a second mortgage on my home to pay for that well. I'm a single income family. I could not get any assistance. And that is insane to me for something as basic as water.
During that time, she hauled water from a spring in Williamstown and spent hundreds of dollars on bottled water at the store. It's a story Ken White of Valley Artesian Wells in Wethersfield has heard many times. He drilled Longo's new well.
This is as dry as I've ever seen it in the 35 years that I've worked in the industry.
Vermont's Department of Environmental Conservation says it's received reports of more than 400 wells running dry since August alone. That's 4 times as many as they received over the entire last decade.
So we're juggling our schedules to try to take care of the people with the greatest need.
40% of Vermonters get their water from a private well, but the state doesn't track how many people get their drinking water from spring-fed or dug wells, like the old one at Faye Longo's house. Drilling a well can cost north of $20,000, and there isn't much financial assistance out there for homeowners who have to foot the bill unless they meet strict income limits, which Longo didn't qualify for. Vermont has some of the oldest housing stock in the country. White says many of those old homes have hand-dug wells that are only 10 to 30 feet deep. In contrast, drilled wells can be 400 feet deep. White's crew was working on one just recently at Michael Mezzacapo's house in Pomfret.
I realize that it's not a guarantee, but it is sort of a little bit of insurance.
Mezzacapo is hopeful this new well will make his home more resilient to climate change in the future. Justin Mankin is a scientist at Dartmouth who studies how climate change affects rain and drought in New England.
Drought impacts right now are stressing our practices of water provision. I think that's noteworthy and a potential harbinger of greater stresses in the future.
Human-caused climate change is making New England wetter overall. But Mankin says where Vermont used to see regular, steady precipitation year-round, more of it is increasingly falling sporadically during extreme events. As temperatures warm, he says that means more of that water is evaporating before it has time to trickle down into the bedrock.
Even in a wetting climate, when drought does occur, it will just be more severe owing to the temperature effects.
This creates the sort of prolonged hydrologic drought he says Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine are experiencing now. For Faye Longo, the new well has changed her family's life. For the first time in a long time, she can shower when she wants to shower and finally run her dishwasher. But she says she'll probably never stop treating water like a precious resource.
Did it ever cross my mind that I would run out of water to drink in my own home? No, not ever.
As the climate changes, it's something more Vermonters may soon have to consider. For Vermont Public, I'm Abigail Giles.
Thanks for listening to The Frequency today. We had additional reporting from Bob Kinzel, Peter Hirschfeld, Nina Keck, Nathaniel Wilson, and Adia Golston. Today's episode was edited by Stephanie Colombini, and our music is by Blue Dot Sessions. I'm Aaliyah Papes. Talk to you tomorrow.